All right. My name is Miranda Osborne, and I am debating the side that fracking is causing earthquakes in the Great Plains.
I'm Colton Tucker, and I'm debating the opposing side that fracking is not causing an increase in earthquakes, and it also doesn't have any adverse effects on the environment.
Okay. I think that fracking is causing earthquakes in the Great Plains because the process of fracking basically is drilling and injecting fluid into the ground at a high pressure in order to into these wells that are underground and to get like more not grass gas like certain different kind of fuels and like things that people need, which is good and efficient, but it is having all these negative side effects to it. So side effects such as earthquakes, and earthquakes are, it's been proven that there have been many more earthquakes in the regions like where the fracking is occurring, and it's becoming unsafe for the people that live around them and unsafe for the environment as well.
Um, Through my research, I found that there wasn't enough studies that have been taken to fully understand what is causing these earthquakes and what's causing the adverse effects. Like, as the United States Geology Survey seismologist Susan Hughes said, they don't have enough comprehensive understanding of what causes these earthquakes. So there's no way to be able to find causation with what's happening in the environment and directing it towards the drilling of those wells. So, because of that, I really don't think that there's any way to prove that the wells are causing these issues. They're not causing earthquakes or causing there to be effects on the environment that wouldn't have happened naturally, maybe.
I see where you're coming from. At the same time, um, there is no proven explanation to where all these earthquakes are coming from, but scientists have connected facts together in order to come up with the hypothesis that fracking is causing these earthquakes. In Oklahoma, there were issues where there weren't a lot of earthquakes occurring. So, like over a 2 year time period, there was only 3 earthquakes. And then, ever since they moved fracking to Oklahoma and around that region, there has been over like 128 earthquakes in 2013 alone. And then since 2014, it's increased to like 238 earthquakes, around that number. I'm not certain on it, but it's around that number. So, with the increase of earthquakes, we can have that scientific hypothesis that they are connected.
Well, I feel like just based on some things that I have found in my research, such as from the Oklahoma Geological Survey,
Mm-hmm.
where they did go out and investigate this issue, they found that how the earthquakes have occurred in what they describe as a distinct swarm is more typical of a natural event. So for uh, the earthquakes not to happen or happen very rarely for quite a while, and then all of a sudden for it to just kick in and start happening all the time, they describe that as more of a natural occurrence rather than being occurred as injection has increased. So it just makes sense to me that based on that, there isn't enough evidence to support the idea that these drillings are causing the earthquakes to occur versus it being a natural occurrence.
Well, it's not just happening in Oklahoma, though. There's been other places, so that could be the case in Oklahoma, but the same reoccurring issue of where there is fracking in the area, all around that area, there has been earthquakes and an increase in them. So it's not only happening in Oklahoma, it's happening in Ohio, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, all of these other places that they have built these wells. And it is causing earthquake. Well, I think it is causing earthquakes, but it's not only doing that. It's causing damage in the ground. It's causing pollution, contaminated water, toxins like rising up into the air we breathe. All these kind of negative side effects to the matter that are just. It seems like it's doing more bad than good.
Well, in the past, over the last 60 years, there have been according to Michael Economides, a professor of engineering at the University of Houston. He wrote this for Forbes magazine. He described 60 years of oil and gas workers having completed 2 million fracking jobs throughout the world, and they have not found any adverse environmental impact along with that. So after those 2 million jobs have happened, I don't see that an increase now would have more of an impact than it has before if there haven't been any environmental impacts recorded in the last 60 years.
The environmental impacts that I have found are like results from the earthquakes. So we don't know exactly for a fact that it is happening, but with the scientific like explanation and causes that can like infer that that is the problem, there have been injuries, deaths, like all these other problems that come along with it. So it's I don't know, I still don't think it's like the most efficient way to solve the problem of getting more resources. There's other ways that they can do that without harming people's lives, harming citizens around the area, harming our like what we breathe, the air we breathe, the water we drink. Like there's plenty of other ways that we could do this, like if we just stopped fracking, like stopped the issue once, like just to see, because we could totally stop and then see that all the earthquakes stop and all these people get better and there's no contamination in the water and that kind of thing.
Well, the issue with stopping is that fracking actually is the most efficient way for us to get those resources that are in the shale areas. So that's the reason why they're using it now. But those gathering those resources accounts for a vast portion of our economy that we have in the United States. We are one of the world's largest exporters of oil in the world. So cutting off a major supply of that oil will vastly reduce our potential to export those resources and get the influx of income into our country. So I don't feel like it's a viable option to just completely stop, but maybe changing the way that we do handle fracking is a good way to change that, such as through recycling, according to Michael Economides, that the industry trend is now happening is recycling the wastewater, which is currently being drilled into the wells that are being described as the source of these earthquakes. So now that they're recycling that material, the amount of waste that needs to be drilled into those wells will be vastly reduced. And in fact, based on the reporting from New York Times, the industry has increased their recycling 3 times over the last year and a half, from 2010 to 2011.
Okay. Even with the recycling though, they're still having like all this excess water, all these toxins build up. Even if there is a significantly like less amount, they're still putting lead, uranium, mercury, radium, formaldehyde, all this stuff into the earth we're supposed to live on. And those are all awful, awful things that you don't want in your body when you're trying to live, you know. And so, like, during this process, there's a 17% chance higher rate of contaminated water just around the area that fracking is occurring. So it's like, is it worth it? Like, is it worth harming people? Is it worth kind of destroying our earth in order to just get more resources? There's other ways to do it, and, like, I get that it's more efficient, but is it worth harming people? Is it worth harming where we live?
Well, the thing about some of that material, the radium, the radioactive material that comes up, is that it actually occurs naturally within the earth in those areas. So what they're doing is they're kicking out that the radium, the water, the salt that is down with the oil, and they're taking that, what they call wastewater, away and putting it in those wells. And while they do actually have chemicals that they use to separate the shale rock and get that oil and the natural gas that's down there, that is a very small portion of what is being put back into the earth. Right. And so what is going back into the earth, for the most part, actually came from the earth itself. And while it may just be that the material has been displaced and that there are issues that could come from uh, the wells, from people drilling water wells, and there could be issues from there. A major portion of the fracking is occurring in very minutely populated areas, such as western Texas, where there isn't very many settlements there, as well as in the plains in Oklahoma, where there isn't very much civilization. So the impact to humans is, for the most part, very small, with some certain exceptions, such as the earthquake in Prague, Oklahoma, where there was damage to a home that resulted in injury. But according to the Oklahoma Geological Survey, that was not the result of fracking, as it had been described by the attorney and by the prosecutor of that court case. So the impact to humans is actually very minimal in fracking, according to those sources that I've researched.
What did they say the result was from it?
They said that the Oklahoma Geological Survey said that it was a result of natural causes, that the fracking did not cause that earthquake, and while it may have caused another earthquake, there has yet to be a distinct correlation between human injury and damage to property to fracking, from what I have found in my sources.
Mm-hmm. So if that was the case, if it really isn't that bad, then what is their problem with stopping it? Why is it such a big deal that they can't maybe stop it in one area, but then like keep it going in another? Like just to see the effects.
It's mostly money. Like each one of those wells is worth millions of dollars. So the possibility is that as those resources are used up, they will most likely leave them and then move on to a new source. So with the potential of those wells to dry up, it's possible to see those effects within the next few decades. But currently, the reason why they don't want to stop is that it provides such a influx of currency to us that we don't have the option of stopping that, because it's such an important part of our economy. So for now, they are just going to continue with it because they haven't found reasonable cause to believe that it is causing major issues to our environment.
Okay. Cool. How many minutes are you at?
I'm
at
not sure.
15.
It's not showing. It's showing me 18 minutes, but we did stop a couple times.
Okay. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I know.